All right, welcome back. And of course, in this segment, we host, we have one-on-ones with different people. So today, we are glad to be hosting Big Ted, who I have to get this right, otherwise he'll be my guest. He's the director of brand strategy and events at the presidency.
That's right. That's right. That sounds more like it.
That is good.
Yeah.
All right. So, of course, also Joy Mudengi is here.
First of all, what is happening with the coordination here?
Yes.
You guys planned this?
No, it just means that he has style.
Oh, okay. He's on your level.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Actually, I asked him where he bought his suit from. So I think whoever sold to him the suit has also some good taste.
Yes, buys the suit from where you buy.
Yes. From the person who sells to me.
Sells to you.
Yes.
I like it. I like it.
All right. Of course, Joy should have been in the middle. It should have been really cool.
It's all right. It's all right. You guys have your romance over here. I'll just chill on the side. I'm okay.
All right.
No, it's okay. But Joy, you see, I did some red, so
yeah,
we're matching this.
It happens.
Yes, everybody's matching. Everybody's cool. So we want, of course, if you want to plug into this conversation, use the hashtag #ParBreakfast on Twitter, and of course at Team2D, that is his handle on Instagram, and at Ted Quacker.
Yes.
On Instagram.
At Team D2D.
At Team D2D.
Dare to Dream.
Oh,
Dare to dream.
Dare to dream.
All right. Okay. I guess we'll start from there. When you're young coming up, did you
dare to dream?
Yes.
Well, number one, I must explain that I grew up in Eastland.
Right.
My whole life. I've grown up in Eastland. And by the way, let me just say that the kid who was here before we came in,
right,
I think that guy is more focused than me. Like, I was watching him and I was like,
he knows what
I should be taking notes. Yeah, I should be taking notes.
Yes.
But those are the aspects of a dreamer. And growing up in the mtaa, all I did was dream with other people. And I can only speak for myself and say that I wanted a better life than what I lived. So I aspired for many things. I'm not your best A student. I'm not actually. The only A I got was like A for elephant. You know?
A for elephant.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I'm not your typical academic student, but I have my strengths. And but I'm just I'm actually a real example that if you focus on what you want and what God has given you, then you can actually make it and make it big.
Yeah.
I don't see myself as your typical hero, but from where I've come from, you know, I can only look at other people who are struggling. Vijana wala kumtaani, nakuambia, you know, it's doable.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
You know, I attend a lot of festivals and events, and I speak to young people in the arts. You know, people who are doing music, people who are doing art and everything, and just tell them, if you focus, if you put your mind to this thing, and actually focus on this thing, then you'll be able to make it. But also, let me put a disclaimer and say that, you see, I've found my biggest success in prayer. That God is everything, and without God you're nothing. So we can come here and talk about talent, we can talk about plans, we can talk about everything, but without God, man, let me tell you, you're never even starting. So for me, it all comes down to prayer. And as I speak to people, it always comes there. Of course, it's not what people expect, because people expect me to give them a formula, which probably they were taught in school.
Give us the manual,
and everything. But for me, it's actually on my knees. I found my greatest victories on my knees when nothing else could happen. Because listen, you see, we say God is the Alpha and the Omega, which means He's beginning and the end, which means He's at the beginning and He's at the end, which means God is life. He is time. So if you feel that you're out of time, then God is able to take you and put you back in time.
For those of you who did not go to church yesterday, just turn up the volume.
Watch us. You can
Big Ted is preaching, and I love it.
And is that like your background from where I mean, it's always important to have your own identity, but also your parents are preachers?
Yes, my dad has been a pastor and a preacher for the longest time.
Right.
But there's always a story about preacher's kids.
Yes, exactly.
Preacher's kids.
I'm also
do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about.
Preacher's kids are always the craziest, you know.
Joe is like, hey.
She knows what I'm saying.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think it's just that sometimes maybe we're too sheltered, and we look at the world from the window, and we see people seemingly enjoying themselves and doing all these things, and in our aim to find ourselves and find what we want, we end up stuck in those places. But the best thing is being able to find your way home in your own space.
Exactly.
Not in the space. I've been to Bible school. I went to Bible school. I mean, I was in a gospel group. I've been a DJ. You know, I've been at the top. Yeah, there are many things which you never say on TV. I've been doing, you know,
etc., etc.
Yeah, you know. But all in all, I can say that you're able to find your way home, regardless of where you are. I speak to people. Look at the great people who have done business. Look at KFC, General Sanders. You know, 69 years old, 67 years old is when he was founding KFC. You know, there are lots of other people. And if you look at those people, and I was telling some young guys yesterday, then I think it would be unfair for God. Like, I've done this for about 15 to 17 years. Right. So it would be very unfair for God to give you what I have in one day. Because probably you don't have the foundation to handle some of the things that I go through. And it explains a lot. And but also for the young people and in Kenya, I have this thing which I always keep on telling them. For example, and I must jump into this different space right now, that the government has set aside funds for young people, for youth. But how many youths have gone out there to find out about the funds? How many youths have bothered to go and actually access the funds? That's even too far. Now, it's a 24-hour process right now to get your company registered. How many young people and even older people have bothered to go and get their companies registered? Now, without you doing all that, you cannot be able to access the opportunities that the government has for you. You cannot be able to access the 30% procurement. You can't be able to access the tenders. You can't be able to access anything else which is there. Even artists and musical groups. So our biggest problem comes that we don't want to take the step, but we want it to work for us. So I think I learned late in life about the things that I need to do to get me to where I want to be. I grew up, where I grew up, I still go back sometimes, and I see people who are even brighter than me, but who are still at the same place. Now, it doesn't matter if you're still at the same place, but the fact is that you're able to go from there and take you somewhere else. And we have to go back to God. When you're faithful to God, and this is what God tells us. He says, show me your faith and I will show you my faithfulness.
Was your faith that strong for you growing up in Eastlands, for you being that young guy who was, you know, daring to dream? Was your faith that strong? Like, did you always know you'd make it at this capacity? No.
I think one of the biggest issues was, see, growing up in Eastlands, you're limited to what you're able to see. And let me say this from the beginning, that what you're able to see, basically, you will receive what you perceive. If you're able to see yourself as a big shot, then you'll become a big shot. Because if I tell somebody now that there's a building in Dubai which does not rain on the roof because it's so high past the clouds, if you've never been able to see it or to understand it, you'll always be like, that's a lie. You're lying to me. You know, if I tell you that there's somebody in Nairobi who spends about 500,000 shillings every weekend on his life, you won't believe it, because your budget is maybe 70,000. So you must be able to perceive something before you receive it. And that's why I always encourage parents, let your kids read, buy them magazines, buy them movies, let them see what the world is thinking. America and the Western world do this every time to their children, whereby they expose their children to a bigger picture before it actually comes to be. It's subtle messaging. I was told about an experiment they did on Sesame Street in the 70s. I used to love it. It's the longest running TV show and the most successful in America. And the plan was for them to show an integration of different people in society and different races together doing one thing. And it's subtle. But also we must learn how to talk to our children so that they're able to dream and dream big. Now, if your kids are inside a small hole and they can't see the sun, even if you tell them that there's a sun, they will not believe that there's a sun. And that's why I keep on encouraging young people, you know, go out, see the world, and learn what you want to learn. Many times people always ask, okay, how do you know everything that you see? Because I write a column every morning. And the reason why I wrote it without using my name was so that guys would accept it without putting the person in front of the column. It's on Instagram, it's on the social media. You can follow me, by the way, on Instagram at team, like a team, TEAM, D for dog, to the yes, and then yeah. So I write these things not because I am the most brightest guy on earth, but I write them because I read, I try and research. I have a lot of information in my head which might not necessarily help you at this time, but anytime when I'm put before two presenters on TV, I'm able to wow the audience, because these guys always wonder, like, my goodness, this guy knows so much. Yeah, more than the kid was. More than the kid was. But that kid has really hurt my ego. You know,
he really made things up.
You spoke in an interview that was on eDaily about you not having gone to university. I think that a lot of people kind of didn't know that part of your story or your journey. A lot of people see your glory and don't know the entire story.
Actually, we have that somewhere.
Do we have that?
We have that.
That clip.
The video.
It was a video.
All right, since we don't have it,
moving on swiftly.
We have it. There it is.
Kama wewe ni mtu wa kupakia bidhaa, huwa mtu mzuri wa kupakia bidhaa. Vijana, acha niwaambie kitu moja, mimi sijaenda university, but nafanya kazi State House, mimi nafanyia president kazi. Si karatasi, ni kwa sababu nilijiamini, nikasema mimi lazima nitakuwa pali president yuko. So usikae hapo unasema wewe sijaenda shule kwa hivyo mimi sitafanya, ndio tunatupa mawe, ndio naongelesha watu vibaya. Hapana. Ile kitu Mungu amekupatia kufanya, ifanye na uifanye vizuri. Kazi yangu ni kuongea. This is what I'm paid to do. Na hiyo kuongea ndio iliniingisha State House. Nilisema siku zile huyo jamaa atanipatia microphone niongee, hata yeye hakuna mtu ataandika kazi. Haya. Na nikaongea hivi.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for His Excellency the Governor of Machakos, Dr. Alfred Mutua.
Na kazi ikaingia sio?
There it is.
Very interesting. First of all, of course, so many people have taken that, put it out of context in different ways. But what is the context?
But I love it when people put things out of context, because it gives them something to do. And there's a saying that I have. I say you cannot argue with results. So, and I tell everybody, you see, you might not necessarily like the person, but if the result speaks something that you're not saying, then you are the liar. The truth of the matter is that when I did my Form 4 exams, I wasn't the most bright student. Okay, I'm bright, but I did not do very well. So when I was offered a chance, and this was when my life started being rocky, and my dad offered me a couple of chances. I was offered a chance to go and study abroad. I was offered to join the various universities in Nairobi. I've been to 3 colleges, and the 3 colleges I went to, all of them I dropped out at some point. And that's why my heart goes out. I love my dad with my whole heart, because he actually gave his all every time. But because my mind was out of focus, I wasn't able to see it as an opportunity. And many times, and I came to learn this later on, that many times when parents want their kids to do a particular thing, we always think that these parents don't know. These are old guys. These guys are living in a different age. But usually, most of the time, it's because they're offering you an opportunity they did not have when they were growing up. But it's hard for you to see it when you're on the other side. It's only when you reach at my age and you look and say, oh my goodness, I should have. But you see the many other issues which come. There are consequences to every action. Every action that you take, there's a consequence to it. Don't think that you'll do something and there'll be no consequence coming after you. Each and everything you do, there's a consequence. Me sitting here today in the morning and talking like this, there's a definite consequence which I'll face immediately I walk out of that door. Either people will be happy, or people will be sad, or people will be both. But you see, there's a consequence to everything. So I faced, and I'm facing my consequences. Because I jumped over that chance, I went to do other things. I became a DJ, I was a club promoter, I became an artist promoter. And actually, I have my artists who I'm very proud of what I did. But Joey, when I was doing all these things, I was not actually, I knew I wanted to do something, but I did not have a particular plan. And that's why that other kid here makes me happy, because he seems to have a plan.
He's set him for marriage.
Yeah.
I was the same way. Plan, I mean, you just kind of navigate.
And that's, anyway, this is not a show about marriage, so let me not go into that. But that's one of the biggest issues I think many men face in this country, that we measure our success with marriage, which is wrong. Anyway, let's go back to this. The issue I think at hand is I shock many people because I look like I have been to the best universities, I've gone abroad, I have, but I know I have an accent. But hii lazima watu wajue. Hii accent moja nayo ni sauti ya kazi. Joey at home does not speak like that.
I speak in cows.
So you know everybody, I mean, even look like a guy like you have to tell me someone like PLO Lumumba, if he's being chased by thugs, he'll use big words. You think he'll use big words? You're circumventing. No, he'll have to go. So it is out your kazi. And even that voice which I use whenever I speak, it's out your job. Okay, but it's well understood and it's everything. But let me rush back to the issue of education. Now, what I did during my whole process is I started attending small courses which came my way to basically increase capacity and help me reach a particular level. I'm actually enrolled in university right now as we speak. But in along I've done marketing. I have a couple of diplomas in marketing and strategy and business management. So I used that chance as I went along to basically just enhance my knowledge. But the most important thing is to learn. And this generation has been blessed with this. That everything you need is here. But you are able to, instead of you going to YouTube, you can actually go in, Google out a topic, read it, understand it at your comfort. You know, so that's what I've been able to do. I've been able to add value to my life by being able to attend small courses, short courses. Now I'm in university. It's the most difficult thing on earth, but I mean, I just have to take it.
Again, self-improvement, like you're talking about, always doing something to better yourself.
Right. And so now you're doing MCing, or you used to do MCing and you still do MCing. You have an event company and all this. But talk about how it all started, because to get to where you are, of course, there's like a journey. And I read somewhere that the first gig you got, you were paid chips and sausage. I think it was Steve Muturi or someone who organized your first gig.
And by the way, don't make it look like you're just an MC. No, I'm a host. I'm a professional host. A professional host.
Yes. The hostess with the mostest.
Yes.
The host with the most. The host with the most. So, sorry.
During the earlier days, I tried my hand at comedy. And I remember we went to Carnival with a couple of my friends, and I met Steve Muturi. And he was there with Ageko Shabir. And they told me, we want to give you a chance to participate. Now, these are some of the most important lessons in my life, that sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But whenever even you lose, you take that as a building block and put it and build what you want to build. Because for me, that particular event was one of the most exciting, but also one of the most, which taught me the most in life. Because two things happened. Number one is there was no pay. I did the show, finished the show, there was some fries there and some sausages, and I ate them, and thank you very much, we'll see you next time.
Right.
There was no pay.
At all. Not even fair, you know.
We're giving you publicity.
A platform.
We're giving you a platform. I saw this joke the other day where this restaurant asked these guys, can your band come and play for us? Want to give you a platform. And the band says, I'm having some guests on Sunday. Can you bring some food? We want to give you a platform.
Goes both ways.
So I think for me, the second lesson I learned was that That day the show didn't go well. I mean, nobody laughed at my jokes. I thought it was very funny, but nobody laughed. It was one of those bad days at work. But also, it helped me understand that you can have a particular skill, but it's for somebody else to use. You can actually be a ladder to somebody else's success. Through that, I was able to bring on the show Ridiculous. That's how they made their big break, and many other artists who we got along. You might be a good writer, but you can't sing. So don't try and tell us, don't listen to the voice, listen to the words. Just don't sing. Give it to somebody else who can sing. All right? You can be a good singer, but you can't write. That's why when you do for us songs which make no sense, we don't actually value it because there are no words. You know, and that's something which we need to understand and accept, that maybe I'm a good orator, but I can't write this speech. So I'll get somebody who's a speech writer to write for me so that I'm able to deliver this speech in a particular. You can't be everything to everyone. At some point you were managing, was it Red Fan? Chameleon, Biblical at the same time. So you've seen the evolution of this industry up to this point. What do you think of the Kenyan music scene 2016? Well, and maybe I'll put on two caps here. I'll put on cap as government, and I'll also speak as a player in the industry. The industry, what we call the creative industry in Kenya, has come a very long way. A very, very long way. And we must give credit where it's due, that I think Kenyan industry has come of age. We have big shows coming here, we have big producers coming here, we have big companies wanting to invest in Kenya. So it's time, it's the right time. But what we've been trying to do and what's happening right now, and I'm very, very aware, because I actually the vice chair of that particular committee, of a bill and an act which is being put together for us to have the music bill, to be able to enable the industry function in a particular way. And the various campaigns which are going on, and the permanent public secretary and CS for culture and the arts are busy trying to put together various formats to be able to enable this industry actually pay. Because for the longest time, what we've not had is a system. So it's actually almost like putting your money in a torn pocket. That if you put in your money, it will always fall out. So all that is happening right now is measures and balances. And there will be many voices talking, because one of the other things we always say is this is the creative industry. Everybody is mad, but in their own way. So everybody will always talk. But at the end of the day, we want to create a big and wonderful industry that will be able to serve this whole part of Africa, and as we go on, and emulate people like Nigeria, people like South Africa, economies which are actually making a lot of money off music and the creative industry. Well, that having been said, let me say that musicians and people in the creative industry need to understand one thing, that at one particular point you must accept to be led. One of the biggest problems is that everybody wants to be a leader until that leader is the leader, and then everybody doesn't think that guy can lead. And what happens is that everybody, it's just like football. I hate football, by the way, but it's like football.
That was the point where you would have left, but since you're on TV, you can keep
I hate football. But everybody who is on the bench always seems to know the team and the play more than the coach. Everybody always seems to say, this coach is stupid, when I should go, this guy should do that, this guy should do that. But the guy has a track experience. He's actually been there. Musicians and creative industry, you must accept to be led. At some point you must say, let's give this thing time to grow, or this thing time to develop. Because without you being led, then you have many heads trying to do the same thing, which is not possible. But also, it's the same thing as politics. I must urge the musicians and the creative industry that for you to have good leadership, you must agree to take part in the process of creating and making that leadership. If there's an AGM which is being called today, and you don't go for the AGM, if there's a voting process being called, and you don't go for the voting process, then you have no right
to complain
about your leader. Because that's the leader you have chosen by not choosing. So the creative industry in Kenya must come and say that we agree to be led. And we shall go through the processes. Many of the economies, and sometimes, let me say, people look at America and say, we're not as democratic as America. We're not this as America. How long has America been around?
Right.
100+ years. So you actually want to jump the process and get to 150 years because we are 50. I don't think it's possible. I think what needs to happen is that people need to understand the process. And maybe let me jump somewhere before I speak about Chameleon and Anderson and Baby Cool. Is that young people need to understand that you can have an oven ready to bake bread. In fact, let me use a jiko, ready to make ugali. And Waluya,
very important. Big
my mom especially, that you can have a jiko ready to make ugali, and you put in the water, and before it boils up to the right temperature, you pour in the flour. Now, at the end of the process, you will have ugali, but it shall not be fully cooked. That we must allow ourselves to be fully cooked in the process. And the biggest problem is that we have too many solutions. That's why every time you want to put out the thing as a solution, there's a problem, because it's half-baked. So for everything, for leadership, for politics, for the creative industry, for each and everything, you must accept to go through the whole process. Whereas Jose Chameleon, I remember before Jose came, I met Baby Cool. Baby Cool had come to Kenya, and he was staying at my house. And he tells me there's this other young artist from Uganda who would like to also come and try his hand in Kenya. Now, then is when we had the explosion of beauty pageants, and there were a lot of events. So we would do all those events. But they would do an event and we would be paid 10,000 shillings. And as the manager, I'd take 20%, 2,500 was mine. And then we had another 2,000 shillings, which was for like transport, and the rest was for the artist. And then it was a lot of money. Because we'd do a show, or 3 or 4 shows in a particular night. Thinking of it, is that time I used to stay in South B in an SQ. The SQ was 6,000 shillings.
Right.
And the house belonged to the guy I worked for. And my salary then was 6,000 shillings. So in short, I wasn't getting paid.
Breaking even.
I was actually given even like a retainer. The retainer was 6 Gs. After that, I went to work at Kiss for a very long time, and blah blah blah. It's another story for another day. But let me explain that. One thing I saw with these artists when they came is that they were hungry. And they were ready to change the world. And they were not conventional. They came and said, you know what, we want to do everything. I remember Baby Cool used to do a lot of Barry's Hammond at that time. He'd come with tracks and he'd perform them, and he had these big dreads and everything, and they were energetic. And they were willing to sleep on my couch for 2-3 years so they can get to where they are right now. Chameleon came in, I remember he came in by bus, he was lost. I'd never been to Nairobi, he didn't speak good Swahili, and we went to pick him up at Kencom, at the call box. And we picked him up from the call boxes and took him to the office. And then he went on, and one day he calls me and tells me, I have a song, and went to, our office was at Afya Center. And we go to the stairs, and he sings for me, and he sings Mamma Mia, and he tells me, this is the song, you know. Looking at it, it's almost like the guys had a plan, but they needed someone to open up the door. And that's one thing which I've tried to do from then till now. There's a lot of mentorship, giving a lot of young people opportunity. And I'm happy, I can't preempt it, but a very good project coming from the presidency very soon on talent and the creative industry. It will change how we look at everything. It will be amazing. But I'm happy to be part of that, and happy to serve a government and to be in a place that gives me the opportunity to be who I am, not to be somebody else, but also at the same time serve. And I just stay down the road and I walk down the road. The most happy thing is being able to go to work every day, loving what I do. Yes.
All right. Now, of course, there's a lot of feedback on social media, but there's also the fact where the name Big Ted, where it came from. You see, you're not always like this. I'm speaking one of the artists used to be with Kuna Picha Apple.
That time you just Ted.
It was just Ted. He did. Very happy.
Are you seeing that? Are you seeing that quote? That quote used to be called Jonjo. Because if guys saw me with it, they knew there's a deal going down.
Oh my goodness.
That's what we just discovered, Waire.
Right.
I had a company with four of my friends, Big Kev, Lee Kyodera, Dixon Gujiri, and myself. I had a company called Shilton Entertainment. And we used to do an event every year, a talent search competition every year. And we had just discovered Waire. He had done a song. He was the winner of that. He was being awarded by the guy was the Kanu National Director of Youth. You've cut him out there, and then Mickey is right somewhere behind him. But those are the days. But then that picture, it's just that the coat is a bit big, but I've just had this body. Yeah. And by the way, I'm called big because of the size of my wallet.
Oh, not because of the size of
no, the wallet.
The wallet. If you think I'm tall, wait until I sit on my wallet.
All right.